Now, this morning, the U.S. government says it has reason to believe Russia asked China for military equipment and other support in its war against Ukraine. That's according to 3 U.S. officials who declined to elaborate on whether the U.S. even knows if the Chinese agreed to that request or not. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli joins us now from Washington. Mike, good morning. So tell us, how is the White House responding to this? And if China were to get involved, this could seriously change the direction of the war, right?
Absolutely, Savannah. The White House throughout this Ukraine crisis has been keeping a very close eye on China's actions and, just as importantly, their inaction during this entire crisis. You'll remember a month ago when we were talking about that meeting between Vladimir Putin and China's President Xi Jinping in Beijing when Putin went to the opening ceremony of the Olympics. U.S. officials have, over the course of the past month, accused China of tacitly supporting Russia's action by standing on the sidelines. As you say, U.S. officials are not specifying at this stage whether China has acceded to Russia's request for potentially economic or military assistance. But we heard from a National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, on the Sunday shows yesterday, reiterating what he has said throughout this, which is that if China or any other country thinks that they could make up for the economic impact that Russia has faced in the form of sanctions from the U.S., from our allies, they have another thing coming, as he put it to Chuck Todd. Now, Sullivan is in Rome today to meet with a high-ranking Chinese official. This is the highest level engagement between any U.S. and Chinese official in months. It's being called by the White House a long-planned follow-up to a meeting that happened virtually between President Xi and President Biden a few weeks ago. But obviously, this crisis now at the top of the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Let's now talk about that attack on a Ukraine military base just a few miles from the border with Poland. So those strikes brought this war significantly closer to NATO territory than we've seen yet. What's the reaction to that? Is there renewed concern this goes beyond Ukraine?
Well, President Biden has been very clear on 2 fronts. One, and he repeated this over the weekend, that the U.S. will not be engaged militarily in Ukraine fighting Russia there. As he put it to the House Democrats on Friday, that would be World War III. But the U.S. has also been clear, and we heard this from Vice President Harris, who just returned from the region over the weekend, that the U.S. will defend every inch of NATO territory. And that's why this strike is so significant and so concerning. When we talk about the military assistance that the U.S. has been providing to Ukraine in the form of equipment and also training, this strike happened at the very base where a lot of that training had been taking place. So it is significant. Now, the White House has been, again, resisting calls, even from within their own party, to do more to really try to confront Russia to prevent this from escalating beyond Ukraine's borders. But at this stage, that pressure has not moved them to take steps like a no-fly zone that would be called for and potentially deter Russia from doing so.
And now, Mike, Western intelligence has warned that Russia could be preparing to use chemical or biological weapons. Obviously, that would also change this war quite a bit, especially considering how many civilians are still within the country. How concerned is the White House indicating we should be about a chemical attack in Ukraine?
They're very concerned. You think about the kind of intelligence that the White House was putting out publicly, declassifying in the early days and leading up to this invasion, very specific about what they thought Russia was going to do. And in many cases, Russia did exactly that. Now they're sounding the alarm because the fact that Russia is accusing Ukraine potentially of launching false flag, what U.S. officials would see as a false flag here, chemical weapons attack, leads officials to believe that Russia is considering doing just that. We heard that from Sullivan on the Sunday shows. Let's take a listen.
Part of the reason, Chuck, that we're so concerned that this may happen is that when Russia starts accusing other countries of potentially doing something, it's a good tell that they may be on the cusp of doing it themselves. What we're here to do is to deny them the capacity to have a false flag operation, to blame this on the Ukrainians or on us, to take away their pretext, and to make the world understand that if chemical weapons are used in Ukraine, it is the Russians who will have used them, and the response will, as the president said, be severe.
Now, the White House feels that they've been very successful by calling out Russia's behavior in advance of potentially, preventing them from using this as a false flag operation. The concern, though, at this point is that as Putin's advance on Kyiv and his military offensive has really not provided the kind of results quickly he was hoping for, that he will resort to more extreme measures. And that's why U.S. officials are watching this so closely.
All right, Mike Memoli, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.